go to San Francisco every spring to work for a few weeks. And I greatly enjoyed the weirdness of America, particularly the thrift shops and flea markets and things. And one of the various things that struck me was the sheer number of books about aliens and UFOs. There are obviously much more of them in America than there are over here. I think that's what gave me the idea and made me think that my arcade needed an alien. So that's where the idea came from. This video is about the process of making this machine, but as always, to start, I thought you should see how the finished machine turned out. And this is actually my granddaughter using it when it was first made.
Welcome to the Roswell Alien Research Laboratory. This is a unique opportunity to interact with our rare alien specimen inside the chamber. Right, now we're ready to start the investigation. Use the probe positioning joystick to move the laser beam to the tip of one of the tentacles. Press the button on the top of the lever to lock it in position. Now, gently push the probe power lever forward a bit. To inject the probe, press the button on the side of the lever.
You've woken me up.
I will just put that through Google Translate. You have woken me up. Now it's awake, you can begin a full examination. This time, position the probe over the armpit of one of the tentacles. Once there, remember to lock the positioning joystick again. Now prepare to inject the probe, this time with a bit more power if you feel confident.
Oh, that tickles.
That tickles. Excellent. You're obviously forming a close bond with it. Now start exploring the more delicate body area.
You've got a gentle touch with that front rib.
You have a gentle touch with the probe. Now you've got the hang of the controls, you can probe at higher power.
Don't touch me there. It's rude.
Do not touch me there. It is rude. Aliens don't have feelings. Probe it at full power.
Mummy, help me!
Mummy, help me. Thank you for participating in our research program.
It was still just a vague idea when one year I got stuck in San Francisco for a couple of weeks waiting for a clock that I'd made for the Exploratorium, the place I was working, that had got lost in shipping. It was all rather stressful, so I needed something to distract myself, and so I decided to start work on the alien. Well, all these books about aliens, aliens all seem to want to abduct a human, to take them into their craft and then subject them to a rigorous physical examination that invariably includes an anal probe. And I thought this was entertaining and wondered if it would be possible to include an anal probe in my alien machine. But I couldn't think how to do it, but to make it fit people of all different shapes and sizes. So that was the challenge that I set myself. And fortunately I was working right in the middle of the museum, so I could invite visitors in to try my various prototypes. And then I eventually did come up with a geometry, the shape of the final machine, that actually worked beautifully for people of all shapes and sizes. It was very satisfying. So when I got home, I immediately started building it. Okay, so this is Alien Probe, and you sit on the stool here and peer at the alien down here, and then when the alien grows, its eyes will peer over the top and its tentacles come out the sides and more out the bottom, and then finally the big tentacle comes round and pokes you in the bottom. So we're about to strip it down and paint it this afternoon. So once I got the tentacles in place, I could then add the pneumatic cylinders to power them, to push them out. Pneumatics is ideal for something like this because I can so accurately adjust both the speed that they come out with the little speed regulators on the ends of the rams, and you adjust the pressure. There's a pressure regulator down there. That's where all the pneumatic valves are to power the cylinders. So I can get it so to do that quite quickly without enough force to possibly hurt anybody. Well, I thought I got all the tentacles sorted, but I realised that there's one thing that still nagged at me, and that's that the anal probe that comes out here, it's not got much force, but all the same, I thought, you know, a toddler standing here would get quite a nasty shock. And so I added a sensor here, so if anything's within that sort of range, it disables the probe and it won't come out. It's a bit of a shame sometimes for normal people, it stops the thing coming out, but perhaps a good idea. One detail that I found satisfying was that I managed to completely hide the tentacles until the moment when they appear. So there are these little hinged doors that open just before the tentacles spring out, and makes it more of a surprise. For the little alien inside the chamber, I had the idea of projecting onto a lens as the sort of centre of the alien. So it started just as a simple lens from an old slide projector, a condenser lens, quite a powerful one. So it just magnifies and distorts things that are quite close to the lens. And then the little video projector, just project the image. But if you project it just straight onto the lens, you don't really see anything much at all. Get that right. You just see a bright light. You need something to diffuse the light, so add a bit of tracing paper behind the lens, and then it's completely different, and you get the. Oops, I'm not doing that very well, but get the idea. Then, to make things a bit more complicated, we had to mount the original projector horizontally to fit in, so we had to have a mirror, and that's a little bit tricky, because if you use an ordinary glass mirror, you get a double image. You get the main one from the silvering on the back of the glass, but you get a fainter one from the front of the glass as well. So here I'm just using a bit of stainless steel as a simple way of doing it. So the final setup then, you've got your projector, the mirror, the tracing paper, and finally the lens. That's the sort of final thing, less the reflections from the roof lights in my workshop, of course. A couple of other things about these little LED projectors. They don't really like being left on all the time, this is the one I originally used in Alien Machine, was this sort of size, considerably bigger, and it only lasted 9 months, and I found that the LED is completely burnt out despite this impressive heat sink and the temperature cutout on the side. So then I changed it all around, the wiring round, so that it switched on, powered up every time you put a coin in, and to my amazement, that was much more reliable, and the same projector's been in the machine for 10 years now without any trouble at all. The other thing with quite a lot of projectors is that they have a minimum focusing range of, I don't know, 400 or 500 mil. So that's not a big problem though, because you just need the lens from a pair of spectacles, from a pair of reading glasses, or by the blank, a 60mm diameter blank, less than a tenner, and put that in front of the projector, and that halves the minimum distance that it'll focus at. I've done that on 1 or 2 machines. So for the tentacles, I wasn't quite sure what to do, so I invited a couple of friends, Tim Spooner and Matthew Robbins, and we had a fun few days playing, mainly with silicon. Tim has used silicon on some of his sculptures before, so the basic tentacle is just ordinary silicon. Each one is the same. But then what we did, we embedded a tiny rare earth magnet in the tip of each tentacle. Here we go. Squidge it in. Just try and put a bit of silicon on top. It usually becomes a bit of a mess. Difficult to get them to all join up. That'll be alright. So that's the tentacle so far. But then we put some spikes on it, and that's a different sort of silicon. This is called high modulus silicon, and it just behaves in a slightly different way. Oh no, that wasn't very good. A bit droopy today for some reason. Maybe I'm pulling them up to pull them slower. Ah, yeah, that's it. You have to do it in slow motion, I think. I'll go back to that first one that flopped over. So then you got quite an impressive spiky tentacle. Well then, of course, you have to leave that for overnight to set. So this one I did yesterday. I didn't put the spikes on, but so it got the magnet in the end. So this is a thin bit of aluminium. If I put a magnet underneath now, should be able to get it to move around. Not unsurprisingly, but by sort of moving the different polarity, you can get it to do a surprising number of different things. And we've got motors that the underneath the aluminium in the final machine, which spin different magnets with different polarity, so the tentacles can do different sorts of movement at different speeds according to how fast the motor's going round.
Do not touch me there, it is rude.
All the chrome work were bits and pieces that I picked up while I was in San Francisco. So the on top of these columns, they're actually the hubcaps from some trucks. And the flying saucer, that's the lid of a wok. But I couldn't find a second one exactly the same, so then I went to an Asian cook shop to buy the top half that matched reasonably. I went to some trouble to make the flying saucer gently rise and fall, and hiding how it was supported. It was sort of a bit like this. You go up and sort of just down very gently. And I like the effect. I don't think people particularly noticed it. And for some reason I just kept having trouble with the mechanism. It's a perfectly simple mechanism, but all sorts of different things went wrong. And I'd broken my rule of the actual mechanism wasn't easy to unbolt from the machine to take back from my workshop. So for the time being, I've just left it static, waiting for the next time the whole machine gets back to the workshop. It sometimes happens like that. A very simple thing just causes endless problems for no good reason. For the probe power lever, I wanted there to be some sort of feedback, so that the further you pushed it, you realised that it was getting more extreme. And my first thought was to have an eccentric motor, a motor with a offset weight on it. And I've used this successfully on one or two machines, and it's certainly a good effect. And according to how much weight and how big a motor, you get as much wobble as you want, really. But in this case, it didn't really do what I wanted. I wanted it to gradually increase in power, the sort of the vibration or whatever it was. And the trouble with an off-center weight, it has natural frequencies with the rest of the mechanism, so it would get more powerful and then get less powerful, and even though the motor was running faster, it just didn't really work. So anyway, that sort of the increased power I did just with audio, little sound generator that increases in pitch. But I also then gave me the idea that as you actually injected the probe with the button on the side, it'd be good if there was some sort of recoil to make it feel as if you were sort of torturing the poor alien in some way. So for that, I added a separate lever with a weight on the end. I made this model because it's not, the actual thing is rather deeply buried inside the machine, so it's not easy to see. And then I added a pneumatic ram on the side here, and up. So normally it's like that, and you increase the power by moving it across. And when you inject the alien, the pneumatic cylinder is connected to a solenoid valve that extends the ram suddenly, and that provides this great big kick, which I think adds quite a lot to it. I'm never quite sure how much people using it actually notice it, but I like it. So with the machine nearly finished, Tim and Matthew returned to help with the sound and the video. Matthew had done this wonderful voice for the alien, which I loved, though later found that people had trouble hearing it, so I had to add the Google Translate bit. And for the video we had great fun playing with close-ups of eyes and mouths. I started to feel slightly sad about the dome lens, because it doesn't really, it rather blurs the image, it doesn't do them full justice somehow or other. But generally it was good fun, so I enjoyed that part of the process. Once on the pier there were the usual sort of teething problems, but what bothered me most was the difficulty people have in following the instructions. And they were a bit too complicated, really. I got sort of trapped. I couldn't let people just use the two levers randomly, or it wouldn't kind of follow the video and build up the tension. And I never really managed to find a way of sort of sorting out that problem. Basically, I was just too excited by making my aliens to think much about the actual game, I think. So that's its failing, this machine. But I still enjoy watching people being probed and their obvious enjoyment of the experience. A few years after I made it, somebody sent me this photo of an American museum. Who knows what goes on there? So maybe the aliens have already landed and are disguising themselves as human beings and busy probing away.